Los Espookys follows a group that you can hire for horror. I am Riley Chow of Gold Derby, here with Anna Fabrega, who is the co-showrunner, co-creator, co-executive producer, head writer, and you also star as Tati. So this show is very much about the illusion of horror, but it also has supernatural elements. So I'm wondering, what are the rules for the supernatural in Los Espookys, and when did you know that you were going to be including actual supernatural elements?
We don't really have any rules for the world that the characters live in, and I like it like that. It's not. I know some shows have like very rigid rules for what is magic or what can happen, and ours, I think, anything really can happen, and there are no boundaries in place and no rules that we set up. Really, we like that things happen and they just happen and don't need to be explained. And then I think that when we were writing, I don't know, we just pretty quickly started adding things like that because they were fun. It wasn't like we set out like, oh, we definitely want to include this element. It just sort of organically happened.
Okay, what about more broadly? How did the show change the most from when you first started making it to as you were really going?
Well, when Fred approached Julio and I to work on it, he came to us when he had sold like the pilot script premise to HBO, and at that point the show was set in Mexico City. It followed friends that did horror in sort of like special effects, makeup, and things like that, and there wasn't any sort of element of the supernatural or anything magical. And once we started writing the pilot, that started to gradually change. And then as Julio and I wrote the rest of the season is when it really evolved.
Now, I understand that you and Julio, you had known each other for a number of years, but you hadn't really worked together. So how was it working with him, with such control over the show? And where's kind of the line of what you're writing versus what he's writing?
Working with Julio is so easy. It's like it was truly like such a gift that we got along as the writing partners so well. And we never really had any sort of like, this is what I do and this is what you do. The show's really collaborative in every step of the process, from writing to the editing to, sound and color mix and everything. Julio and I make all those decisions together. I mean, obviously we ran into situations where one of us maybe feels a little more strongly than the other about something going a certain way, and typically we're on the same page and just go, okay, if you want to like that a little bit more, that's fine with me. Let's do it that way. So it's really, I don't know, it's a really easy collaboration.
Now, Fred Armisen is credited as a special guest star, but he's in every episode, I think. Did he end up being more available than you had thought he would be?
From the beginning, Fred was like, I want to be in it, but I don't want to be like one of the main ones. And he had this idea that he wanted to play a valet. And yeah, I think it was really like Fred just being like, I want to be a part of it, but I don't have to be the star. It's funny. He can be like, he's very giving in that way. I think there are a lot of scenarios in which, a big name like Fred can start a project and hire people and to make it like that person project. And this is really the opposite of that, where Fred brought us on board and said, like, here, do whatever you guys want.
And what about working with HBO? How did they influence the story?
So HBO was really great. They were very open to what we wanted to do. There was never a point where they said to us, this is too weird, or no one's going to understand this. What are you doing? Like every step of the way, they, we presented them what we wanted to do, and their notes on our scripts and everything were all really just about making what we wanted to do better. That was always like their approach with us. It's like, here's what you want to do. How can we make it better? Rather than saying like, well, no, let's try to make it more, palatable or marketable or more like other shows or whatever. They were really, I would say, supportive.
So this is your first job as a producer, and you have quite a business background. So I'm wondering, how did that influence your work as a producer?
Well, I mean, my work producing isn't at all on the sort of money side of things. I'm not a line producer. So my business background really doesn't play into it much. The producing work that we do is all, creative based for the most part, whether it's, casting or helping, consulting with our directors and with our other department heads, like the makeup and wardrobe, art, that kind of stuff. So there's no like business per se, because it's all very sort of creatively driven. The other business stuff is like more, I don't know, I would say entertainment business related, which doesn't really play into what I had done prior to working in, the entertainment industry.
Yeah, can you elaborate on what you did before? And do you think you're headed fully in this more creative direction now?
Yeah, so I had studied economics in college, and I was working at a credit risk management company, and I had been, I don't know, I was interested in finance. When I was in college, I thought I wanted to work in investment banking. And then when I was graduating, I realized, like, no, I want to try to pursue something creative that's more in line with, like, I don't know, what I really love, because I liked econ and stuff like that, but I didn't love it. I was like, oh, I can do this, and I don't hate it. And then when I started writing and performing enough where I was able to leave my day job, I don't think I don't have any plans to go back to that. And I've been doing this now full time for a few years.
Yeah, you had worked on a couple of variety shows before this, and Los Espookys is full of kind of non sequiturs. I'm wondering, like, how many of those are things that you've just been trying to get onto television for years, but maybe couldn't find a way to?
I mean, there are some things that definitely, like, jokes in there that come either straight from Julio and I's stand-up, like our solo stuff, or were things that we had tried to kind of do prior to Los Espookys, and Los Espookys is just a vehicle where we were able to like put it in. So like my character, for example, works a lot of odd jobs, and at the time that we were writing the pilot, I was like really fixated on this idea of someone who worked odd jobs, and I was trying to make like a web series about it. And then this came along, Los Espookys came along, and I was like, well, I want my character to have like weird jobs, and so I like put that in there. So yeah, I think the show is set up in a way that really allows so many different things that might not feel like they belong in the same universe to coexist.
And what do you think your favorite job is that Tati does over the first season?
I like breaking in other people's shoes, because that feels like an odd job that also like could maybe exist. I think some of the other ones are really out there, but that one feels like one that's like, no, I think people would actually take advantage of this service if it was provided.
I feel like I've asked you similar questions, but are there any jobs that Tati would not do, or maybe you had come up with and you thought, no, we can't put that in there?
I remember one comes to mind where I wanted Tati to be someone that waits for the water to get hot when someone's taking a shower. So like they would hire her, and she would like turn on the water and just kind of sit there with her finger under the running water until it got hot, and then she let them know the water's hot now, and then she would leave. I just didn't make it in, but maybe in another season.
How much have you written of the second season?
So we finished writing the second season back in December, and we were shooting. We started shooting like earlier in this year, but because of all the coronavirus stuff, we had to stop. So we were about halfway through production. And we're waiting to see when we can pick back up and finish shooting the second season.
I talked to Julio a couple weeks ago. He kind of made it sound like you have a different director this season, but it's not Fernando Frias.
Yeah, we have a different director. Fernando Frias did all of the first season, and then we have a different director doing like 4 episodes. And those are the 4 that we were working on. And then Julio and I are going to do the remaining 2. Sebastian Silva is doing the first 4.
So how are the directing preparations going for you then?
Good. I mean, we had a lot of the prep work that we had been doing before we started shooting was geared towards the first 4 episodes because that's what we were doing first. There were sort of bigger pieces of the last 2 episodes that we had been working on just because we couldn't start working on them closer to a prep time that like another director, if they were to have come in, would have. But yeah, it was all going well. I hope, we get to finish it soon.
So this show is in both English and Spanish, and you have subtitles for both. So were you tempted to put in kind of tricks in the subtitles at all?
No, not really. I mean, there were certain creative liberties that we took with translating certain lines, just because if we did a more direct translation in English or in Spanish to the dialogue that was being spoken on screen, it maybe wouldn't have translated the same way, or the joke wouldn't have landed the same way. So there were like little things here and there that if you are a native Spanish speaker and you're watching and you're reading the subtitles, you would see that like there were some creative liberties taken, but there's nothing like really drastically different from what's being said on screen in the subtitles.
Now, your show parodies some well-known companies. One of them is Herbalife with Yerbalite. And what response have you gotten from that company?
Nothing. I don't know if they know our show. I'm really, I don't think anyone from that company has even noticed that or said anything. I mean, I think there were other people who, when they watched the show, who knew the company, like identified it. I think it's also a company that a lot of people don't know. And to them, it was just like, a funny sort of pyramid scheme. But the people that know Herbalife identified it. But again, as far as I know, nobody from the actual company is aware of it, or at least, the corporate entity, not the distributors.
I wanted to ask about Pepito. He's in one of the episodes that he's a very strange presence, and he comes back and he has more of a presence. So I'm wondering what the origins of that character were.
So in a lot of like Spanish jokes, Pepito is used as it's just like a really generic name, like the way people say like Joe Plumber, just like a really generic name. Pepito is one of those. And I truly don't remember exactly how it started, but we just thought it'd be funny in that Inheritance episode to have people, that were part of it that seemed to make sense why they were there, and to then just have this other person that nobody knew and nobody understood their relation to this like very wealthy man who had died, and he remains mysterious.
So we're coming up on the Emmys, and we're doing this chat for them. Do you know what episode or episodes you're submitting for the writing category and how you landed on those?
I think, it was a little while ago that we did this. I want to say it was episode 103, the Sea Monster episode. And we chose that one because it had so many different elements. We, like, a lot of different moving parts in that episode that we really liked, where we have like the Gregoria Santos storyline, and we have, the Espookys doing their gigs, their individual lives, that it gets into Herbalife, Fernando, and Andres' marriage drama, it was just like had a lot of moving parts, and we really liked that episode. We really liked all of them, but that one seemed like the one that we were all on the same page about, that felt like the right choice.
All right, and what do you feel comfortable teasing from the second season? How will it be different from the first?
I think that it'll be, one thing that I think feels better, at least for us on the writing side, was that like we understood the characters a lot more when we were writing the first season. We knew Andres and Dati really well, and I think we had some questions about who exactly Ronaldo and Sula were. But as we shot the first season and got to know the actors, Bernardo and Cassandra, they really helped inform who those characters were, which then helped us when we were writing. So I feel like, to me, the characters just feel a lot stronger in the second season than they did in the first one. And then other than that, it's the same sort of like fun gigs and fun characters that get featured in every episode. And then, of course, the drama that we left off in the finale with Betty being married and Andres out of the house. And, yeah, I think I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, well, Anna, thanks very much for chatting, and we look forward to seeing that whenever it comes out, and also to whatever else you have on the go. To our viewers, you can watch our interview with Julio Torres on this YouTube channel, and you can go to goldderby.com to make your Emmy predictions.